Hello, YouTubers.
Hi, guys.
Hey, everybody.
I'm Anthony Anderson, your host, and this is Verna Wilson, my co-host.
Hi.
This is Ecto Portal's Paranormal News. We do this every week here on YouTube. Linda's not here with us this week to do the news, so we're going to fill in.
We're going to fill in, yeah.
And we're going to get right to it. Ready?
Here we go.
Okay, folks, here with the Paranormal News is myself and Verna. We're going to have Verna go ahead and start.
Well, we're going to go ahead and start with an article that's close to home, and this is an article that I actually took part in, and Anthony was actually is part of my lodge, so he can say that he was part of this as well, even though he wasn't there with the lodge that day. Anyway, I took part in this because my lodge helped to bury this little girl that was found, where her coffin was found, and she was over 100 years old. But I'm going to go ahead and read the article so everybody knows what I'm talking about.
Right.
Okay, it's titled "Mystery Girl Found in Coffin Beneath San Francisco Home Was Identified." And they said the mystery girl from the 1800s whose body was found beneath a San Francisco home last year, her body entombed in a small lead and bronze coffin in her well-preserved hands, clutching a single red rose, has been identified. The nonprofit Garden of Innocence Project said Tuesday that the child who surprised not only the work crew that stumbled upon the casket, but also city officials who thought the bodies in a 19th century Richmond district cemetery had all been moved, is Edith Howard Cook. That's her real name.
Edith.
Her real name's Edith.
Little Edie.
Little Edie. I believe they named her Maribel before they found out what her real name was. Right. They put that on the gravesite. Edith was a month and a half short of her third birthday when she died October 13, 1876, according to researchers working with the Southern California Garden of Innocence. The cause of her death, probably severe undernourishment caused by an infection, the researchers said. The team had been working to identify the girl since her body was discovered last May during a home remodeling project near Lone Mountain. It was a light at the end of the tunnel finding out who she is, said Erica Hernandez, a project spokeswoman. The researchers, who included staff at UC Berkeley, UC Santa Cruz, and UC Davis, located records from the old cemetery that was run by the Independent Order of Odd Fellows until about 1902, when the graves were relocated to Colma. Although the paperwork was unorganized, Hernandez said, the team was able to cross-reference plot records with old newspaper obituaries and get an idea of who the young child might be. Once it concluded that Edith was probably the girl, the team tracked down living relatives for a DNA sample to verify their finding. That confirmation came when a sample from Edith's hair matched that of Peter Cook, a descendant of her brother who lives in Marin County. Edith Howard Cook was the second child and first daughter of Horatio Nelson and Edith Scoofy Cook. Peter Cook is descended from Edith's older brother, Milton H. Cook. Edith's family was believed to be of decent means, having buried the child in a relatively expensive metal casket 37 inches in length, with 2 viewing windows on the lid. Her skin and hair, as well as her burial flowers, were well preserved. She was one of 30,000 people with graves at the old Oddfellows Cemetery. Why her remains weren't transported to Colma around 1920, when the city wanted to make room for the living, remains a mystery. Her coffin was found when workers remodeling a home smacked it with a shovel. The homeowner, Erica Carner, swiftly contacted the city, but the medical examiner's office said that because the coffin was on private property, it was hers to deal with. They contacted our lodge too, because it was our lodge's responsibility to rebury. Yeah, and we had to help pay for the reburial. Yeah. Garden of Innocence stepped up to help Carner respectfully dispose of the remains. On June 4th, Edith was reburied at Colma's Green Lawn Memorial Park. About 140 people attended the service, and that included our lodge. Another memorial service is scheduled for June 10th at the burial site to reorganize her newfound identity, and likely I'm going to be there with the lodge.
I think I'll go. I couldn't go to the last one, but I'd like to go to this one.
Yeah, you should go to this one. Yeah, so
that's pretty cool.
That's very cool.
I don't know. There's actually a clip. Let's show them the video clip, the news clip that actually shows some of it, because there's photographs in that too. Take a look at this little news clip. What's interesting about the clip is they actually show pictures of her and the hair. And
yeah, they kept that a secret for a long time. They wouldn't show that publicly, but now they're showing what it looked like because it doesn't matter anymore. And just for everybody's information, when we were at the burial, they didn't use that coffin, the same coffin that she was buried. They actually put her in a new coffin.
So they put the coffin inside a new coffin.
They put the old coffin inside a new coffin and buried her in there, yeah.
So imagine we're just going to remove the headstone and put a new headstone in
Right,
June.
it's not going to be Mirabelle anymore. It's going to have her real name,
That's
Edith
cool.
Cook.
I think that's
Edith
cool
Howard
that they
Cook.
found her real name.
I think so
great.
too. And I mean, I never saw the little girl, but the name Edith seems to fit so much better. It feels right.
One of the articles, I don't know, I think it was a different one than I read a couple of them, said that when she looked at the map, the woman looked at the map, she pinpointed that her, Edith, and her mother, father, and other descendants were actually spaced out to where they're in this woman's backyard.
Oh, wow.
So she was under the house, but they were kind of located in the backyard. Now my question is, are they still in the backyard?
Are they still there? And yeah,
Is she, are they going to dig it up? Are they not going to dig it up? Are they going to leave it alone? I mean, it makes you wonder, are they still there too?
That's a good point. Well, maybe our lodge should contact the owners of the house and see if they could ask them, and maybe they can look into that.
And the other article also pointed out the mother, she has 2 little girls who live in the house. She said she used to put her girls to sleep, and this is after they found the casket. She put her girls to sleep, and she hears a little person running up and down the hallway upstairs. And she thought, oh, my daughters are out of bed. She go upstairs, they're sound asleep.
Oh, wow. So
I thought that was interesting.
That is interesting. That tells you something.
I'd love to investigate.
And then I'd love to investigate.
We'll never get in because it's confidential.
But. I know, but well, if the owner of the house is listening, we would love to investigate the house.
Absolutely.
So, and we're very careful. We're very respectful. So, if you let us, we'd love to do it. If you're listening, yeah.
It's an interesting story, though.
Very interesting
story. We'll keep you updated for the memorial.
Definitely.
Okay.
And my throat's dry, so everybody, if you hear me,
toggle? I'll do one and you.
Yeah, you go ahead. Yeah, you go right ahead. Yeah.
So this next story is actually a paranormal researcher was attempting to unravel the mystery of the black-eyed kids, also known as BEK phenomenon that claims to have captured one of the entities on film. The unnamed investigator who posts his work on YouTube has produced a number of videos detailing his work into the famous BEKs. A recent piece of footage from the man has proven to be particularly tantalizing, as it allegedly shows a black-eyed kid lingering outside his door. Now, the researcher says he was able to lure the entity there by playing a specific frequency, which he believes is a kind of language used by the BEKs, black-eyed kids. Testing his hypothesis, the man set up a camera pointed outside his front door and played the staticky sound throughout the night. The experiment did not yield much in the way of fantastic events until the 5th night, when the sensor light on the house turns on and reveals the distinct presence of what appears to be a young woman standing in the darkness. Now, according to the man, the BEK stood there for over an hour before disappearing.
That's a long time.
It's a long time.
Yeah.
And he could not find the entity anywhere on the property when he searched the area afterwards. Now, while there's no doubt the footage is undeniably creepy, one would be wise to practice skepticism when it comes to such a fantastic video. The anonymous nature of the researcher, along with his remarkably well-produced video, raises suspicions that he could simply be a skilled storyteller and filmmaker rather than some legitimately on the hunt for black-eyed kids. That said, should the video be genuine, then one would hope the frequency test can be repeated by others looking to conjure the BEKs as well. Now, whether it was wise to do so likely depends on what happens once you meet them. Take a look at this video. This is actually the guy who put together the video that they're talking about the black-eyed kids and him setting up his camera. Take a look.
Yeah, what do you think, everybody?
Yeah, take a look.
First, let's talk about the method. I set my laptop up near my door with an open window that gives good access to the front porch. Every night, my laptop is set to record to an external hard drive, and in the morning I would review the footage from the night before. Here you can see how I set the audio signal up to loop over and over, The spectrogram highlights the range of frequencies used by the black-eyed kids. Whoever or whatever that is, it stood there for over an hour before disappearing. That's when I happened to wake up because I heard someone walking around outside.
It's interesting.
It's very clear.
But it's not close enough. You know, it's
No.
just, but who's to say it isn't someone walking through your yard? But why would they stand there for an hour?
For a long time.
But we take his word for it, though, that it's an hour, right?
Well, he's, I mean, why would he mention it? I mean, an hour. He could have just said a few minutes and captured it a few minutes.
That's true.
Why would he pick black-eyed kids to lie about something? When they were, you know how they were saying practice skepticism?
Right.
And well, why pick that subject? I mean, there's other entities and other types of supernatural stuff you could pick, but
why
black-eyed kids? That's something that you don't hear about that often.
No, you don't.
Even in the paranormal world, you don't really hear about it that often.
No, we'll have to do a show on that actually pretty soon.
I was thinking about that as well. And did you know that there used to be an artist who painted nothing but black-eyed kids?
Really?
Yeah, and she painted all kinds of scenes, and they were supposed to look mournful, but they're all black-eyed kids she painted.
Interesting.
I can't recall the name of the artist, but I'll look it up and I'll let everybody know.
All right, so
Yeah.
what do you got, your next one?
Okay, the next one I have here is not a very pleasant one here. Eerie activity reported at Ted Bundy's childhood home, May 8th, 2017. That's when the article came out. Anyway, here's what the article said. A contractor hired to remodel the childhood home of serial killer Ted Bundy reportedly experienced an unsettling array of paranormal activity during the job. Located in Tacoma, Washington, the house had been purchased this past September by a man who was unaware of its macabre history and simply hoped to make a profit by remodeling a home and reselling it. However, for contractor Casey Clopton, things seemed amiss from his very first visit to the home when he inspected it alongside his 11-year-old daughter, who wrote down his notes about the job. According to Clopton, the little girl says she felt weird and began crying until they had to leave the house. The unnerving feeling was echoed by a member of his crew the next week when they began working on the home. Nonetheless, things persisted and things began to get even weirder. Clopton claims there was one occasion where every door and cabinet door had somehow been left open even though the house had been locked overnight, and another instance where workers spotted the words, "Help me," written on the glass of a basement window. Perhaps the most haunting event was when they noticed the word "leave" written in an otherwise undisturbed layer of dust on the ground. The contractor subsequently asked around the neighborhood and learned about the home's connection to the infamous serial killer who was believed to have murdered more than 30 women throughout the 1970s and was executed in 1989. As such, Clopton actually enlisted a pair of pastors to come and bless the home in an effort to eradicate whatever dark energy was lingering there. In fact, on the advice of the holy men, the work crew wrote Bible verses on the walls of the home to protect them from whatever previously plagued them. It appears that the tactic worked, as they were able to finish the work without any further incidents, and the house was subsequently sold to new owners who apparently never asked about the home's unique history. Let's hope they don't hear the same spirits that visit Clopton and his crew, or else the home may be back on the market very soon.
James, I want to tell you something, but you can't tell anybody. Like, what's going on? It's like, this house belonged to Ted Bundy. And I'm like, no, it didn't. He's like, No, yes, it did. Then his contractor runs upstairs and starts freaking out. He's like, yeah, let me tell you what's going on. And he's like, every time we have sawdust on the floor, there's writing in it. He's like, what do you mean there's writing in it? Well, they just like write stuff. Okay, I just kind of blow it off, you know, it's whatever. And our phone always dies. So I still blow it off. James, you're not going to believe what happened this time. So they have a priest come in, they pray over the house actually. And of course the neighbors remind them also that this was Ted Bundy's house. So that was one of the things that we kind of just made sure we just kind of kept quiet initially because we weren't sure how people would react. I was like, oh wow, this is so cool. I wonder what we can find. It was kind of eerie, but at the same time, I thought, this is really neat. So when you look online, it said this was his bedroom. And back here, which makes it so unique, is there's still birds in here that have been trapped and petrified. We didn't take them out, we just left them because we're like, oh yeah, we're not going to touch those. So I took a picture of my face next to the birds, you know, then kind of zoomed in on the birds further, then took a deep picture of it, and I posted it on Facebook. You know, and made my little ghost story. This is my ghost story for the night, you know.
Wow. Of course,
Yeah.
Washington, anybody who's from Washington knows that Tacoma is known as the aroma of Tacoma because of the industrial businesses that are around it. But it's interesting because Ted Bundy is huge. It's like the Zodiac Killer is to the Bay Area. Ted Bundy is huge, a Green River Murderer to Washington State. So that's interesting that they would have paranormal activity. But as I was telling you off air, Washington State does not have a law where you have to disclose,
if anybody died.
If anybody died in your house. So the fact that they're going to redo it, cleanse it, and not tell the owners whose house they bought, I'm sure they'll find out from the neighbors.
Well, you know, what gets me about this story is that it probably never would have been discovered had the child not started crying. They probably wouldn't have thought about it.
Yeah, he would have just finished the job and that would have been it. But the neighbors would have told the new owners anyway.
Well, maybe later, but I mean, it wouldn't have been, it probably would have stayed anonymous a little longer if the child hadn't felt weird about it.
Unless they had interaction when they moved in.
That's true, and also a member of the crew, but I mean, it's interesting that the child felt it first, when probably nobody else did.
That's not a surprise. I don't think it's a surprise.
No, not a surprise, no, because kids tend to feel these things quicker.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. So, what's your article next?
Next one is, speaking of sea monsters, from our previous show we did a couple weeks ago, another Nessie sighting. Nessie is found near a passing boat, May 10th, 2017, this is the article date. The Loch Ness Monster may be making up for lost time following an 8-month absence, as the legendary cryptid has been spotted for the second time in the last week. The newest sighting occurred on Sunday, May 7th, when a man named Rob Jones noticed a strange anomaly sticking out of the water at Loch Ness. When he was able to get a closer look at the oddity, Jones thankfully began filming the scene and marveled to his companion that the object seemed to be moving.
Oh, wow.
The remarkably long video shows the suspected Nessie lurking along the water as a small boat passed surprisingly close to it. That detail is what many point as a possible reason why the video does not necessarily show a creature, since the anomaly is seemingly unfazed by the presence of a nearby vessel. Additionally, a person seen aboard the boat doesn't seem particularly interested in whatever it was they were passing, and the vessel does not stop to observe the object, which one would presumably do if they were such close proximity to the legendary Loch Ness Monster. Nonetheless, Jones remains mystified by what he and other tourists on the side of the road may have witnessed, telling the Scotsman, "Sadly, I don't believe in monsters, but would love to know what it was." The puzzling piece of footage was captured only a few days after another visitor to the Loch Ness photographed an anomaly that was heralded as the first Nessie sighting of 2017, following a months-long stretch where the creature had not been seen since August. Now, one can only hope that the pair of possible Nessie appearances are the indication that the creature's slumber has come to an end and that it will be making more appearances as warm weather and tourists descend on the area for the summer.
You know, I just have this strange feeling that they're so close to solving that mystery.
I think so too, especially if they're having this many sightings.
this many sightings.
Let's show them the video.
Yeah.
Take a look at this video. You can actually see it for yourself. Take a look.
It's moving.
It's moving?
Yeah. It turns, you know. Look. No,
No.
it's moving.
It's moving?
Yeah. It turns. Look. No, it's moving to the back. I haven't been drinking yet.
No.
It's moving.
It's interesting, but what drove me crazy about the video is they never zoom in. It's really
Yeah,
far away, but
yeah.
he never zooms in.
Well, maybe they weren't really able to, or maybe
That
the
could
camera
be.
didn't have those capacities. So, but one of the reasons I think that this mystery is close to being solved is because there's recent sightings, and also there's climate change going on.
Yeah, that's true.
And with climate change, if a creature is that old, has been living that many centuries, you can bet it's probably going to either look for a new home and kind of inspect where it is, and therefore get sighted more. And and then I mean, I hope the creatures still live and breed, or whatever it is. And
I mean, there could be many of them. There could be a new one. It could be an old one.
yeah, it could
There
be.
could be a family of them for
A family of them, and they live a long time.
Yep.
But maybe, but I mean, I'm hoping that if a scientist does actually discover who Nessie really is, that he'll find a way to preserve Nessie, and if there's climate change, hopefully shift her somewhere where she can live just as long and in peace.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I hope.
Yep.
Yeah.
One last quick one
Okay.
before we're done. A UFO was spotted in Paris and other cities around the globe. Last week there was there's conspiracy theories. Sorry, not last week. There's popular conspiracy theories believe that UFOs are flying over France. One of many followers sent in a recent video sighting. This was on YouTube. It appears to be a cigar-shaped spaceship with blinking beams of light. Tyler Glockner, the man who runs the channel, posted a video discussing the sighting. Then Glockner posted a follow-up video about the similarities between sightings in France and 2 other countries. If you want to go ahead and watch the video yourself, you can see if it's, what do you think? Take a look.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, what is up, guys? Tyler here with Secure Team. I have got a quick update video for you guys today. So if you remember in yesterday's video, I was going through my Secure Team email account and I featured a specific piece of amazing UFO footage, which is what you're seeing here. that was emailed over by a regular viewer who said that he didn't really have any information about the video other than it was said to have been recorded somewhere in France, possibly near Paris, but somewhere in France. And in the video, we don't see much, but as far as the UFO goes, we see some mind-blowing activity with a long cigar-shaped UFO flashing some sort of light beam from it, some other smaller glowing objects circling one another, and it really is a fascinating piece of footage. So at the moment, I'm still trying to figure out where and when this occurred, where it came from, and since that video was posted, I've also been doing some...
Okay, Glockler stated the 2010 incident in China shut down the airport. We actually reported that on the Paranormal News before. Some Chinese people believe it was a U.S. missile or some other man-made device. The media picked up the story, but the investigations didn't provide conclusive answers. And the sighting in Australia was a report from 2014 that Glockner posted when he started the channel. So it's the same long cigar shape. Did you watch the clip? It has like a searchlight, and there's another small light circling on the side. It's really unusual.
It is.
I don't know what to think. I don't know.
You know, I don't know what to think either, because if I'm not mistaken, wasn't there another UFO discovered over Paris not too long ago before that? Yeah.
There was. So it's interesting that they're scoping out different countries.
Yeah, I'm wondering what's going on in Paris. If there is really UFO activity over Paris, I'm wondering what is it about that part of Europe that they're looking for, and why they've been spotted recently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder what the interest is.
That's exactly it.
But the way our political climate is, there's probably a good reason why they're interested.
Very good reason, yeah. I was mentioning that before I came here. I was saying, I was telling somebody, I said, my God, I said, I feel like every time I turn on the news,
something else.
It's something else. It's nuts.
All right, so that's the Paranormal News. Let's play out that. Okay, that concludes our Paranormal News for this week. Linda, of course, will hopefully be back next week. If not, you'll see us again.
Then it'll be just us two, and we'll exchange as we do as always.
We will.
Yeah.
Now, tonight's show is, of course, the Devil's Pass. As we explained before, it's an interesting case from 1959 about Russian hikers who went in. It's in Siberia, who went up into the mountains for a trip. They were all experienced. They weren't heard from again for like 3 months. They sent in a team to find out what happened, and they found very interesting results that might involve a Yeti, UFOs, government experiments. I don't know. You'll have to listen to the show to find out in tonight's podcast. There's a link right below this video. Go to fccfreeradio.com, download that podcast, and listen in and find out on tonight's show, Devil's Pass.
Yeah.
And then come back here next week for the Paranormal News. And until then, we'll see you next week.
We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.